evening. My name is Admiral Paris, and this is Barbara Strategy. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the inaugural speech, the second inaugural speech that Donald Trump gave. No. It has to be one. And this country is a Christian nation, and that's what Trump is saying in that part of the speech.
Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
And this is where it starts. He starts off by declaring a national emergency at our southern border. And this is, no wonder he got a standing ovation. This is something that we've wanted to see happen for a long time. We want to shut the borders down. I've said for a long time that I'd shut if I was president of the United States, if I was God of the United States, I would go in and I would send the U.S. Marines with machine gun nests all along the border, and I'd shoot anything that comes across the border. I don't care, man, woman, or child. The foreigners are not stupid. All you have to do is kill a few and the rest of them get the message. Stay the hell away from the United States. So this is going to be an arresting measure. I am glad to see this happen.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release, and I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country.
See, I would go one step further than this, and that is that I want to see them go door to door to door. I want him to send troops from house to house. I want them knocking on the door. Let me see your papers. Let me see your, and that means they're going to come to my house and they're going to say, let me see your birth certificate. I've got my birth certificate. I've got my driver's license. I can prove that I'm an American. My wife can prove that she's an American. We were both born right here in Fort Worth, Texas. My children were born right here in Fort Worth, Texas. Like I've said before, we've been in this country since 1660, and I can prove that too. My seventh great grandfather was Alexander Paris. Paris Island is named after Alexander Paris, Colonel Alexander Paris. He was the treasurer of the South Carolina colony. His father was Thomas Paris and came over here in 1660 to the Barbados Islands from south of London to open up a textile company and had a plantation. So, and then his oldest son moved to Salem and was the preacher that started the witch trials in Salem, Samuel Paris. Anyway, so yes, they need to go door to door. They need to drag out every illegal. I don't care if it's a 3-month-old child. I don't care how old they are. I don't care whether they male or female, or if they're sick or if they're crippled. I don't care. If you're not legal, then you violated our laws by coming across the border, and they need to shut that down.
Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Now, when he gets into the 1798 Act, I had to look this up, and so I'll be familiar with it. There was actually 4 parts to it, and one part of it was the Naturalization Act of 1798, increased the requirements of the Sikh citizenship, and it was repealed in 1802. And then the Sedition Act of 1798, it criminalized false and malicious statements about the federal government. It expired after 2 years. And then later on, and then at the same time, the Alien Friends Act of 1798 was allowed the president to imprison and deport non-citizens. And then the Alien Enemies Act was not allowed to expire. The Alien Enemies Act gave the president additional powers to detain non-citizens during the times of war. Now, originally, it was not allowed to expire, and it remains in effect as Chapter 3, Sections 21 to 24 of Title 50 of the United States Code. The Alien Enemies Act, an act respecting alien enemies, was passed to supplement the Alien Friends Act, granting the government additional powers to regulate non-citizens that would take effect in times of war. Under this law, the president could authorize the arrest, relocation, and deportation of any male over the age of 14 who hailed from a foreign enemy country. It also provided some legal protections for those subject to the law. Unlike the other acts, this was an act that was largely unopposed by the Democratic Republicans, that means the Jefferson Party. President James Madison invoked the act against the British nationals during the War of 1812. President Woodrow Wilson invoked the act against nationals of the Central Powers during, in World War I. In 1918, an amendment to the act was struck to the provision that restricting the law to males only, and then later on it was used in World War II by both Roosevelt and Truman. Now, the thing is, there's going to be a lot of legal battle over this. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't understand why there would be any kind of protection. The question is it's going to come under review is every time it's been used in the past, War of 1812, World War I, World War II, the Cold War, we have been at war. Now, not the Cold War wasn't a declared war, but World War II, World War I, War of 1812, all of those were declared wars by Congress. We're not under a declared war now, but Trump is going to claim that we're being invaded by a foreign country. The other side is going to come back and say, yeah, but there's not one particular country. These people are coming as an act of their own from other countries. This is going to be argued out through the courts. And I have a strong feeling that it's going to get either defeated or just bogged down. Unfortunately, I hope they can find some way around it. This is where Congress needs to get together and pass a new law allowing this to happen. And I don't see how the Supreme Court could strike it down if they're actually going to obey by the Constitution. But then again, the Supreme Court doesn't always obey by the Constitution. So the bottom line here is that, yes, we need to go house to house and drag these damned illegals out of the house. I don't care if they've been here for 40 years. I don't care what they've done. I don't care how they've improved their life or whatever. If you came across the Rio Grande illegally, then you need to go back. And if you want to come back, you can apply the legal way. But then again, I also believe that we shouldn't allow any legal aliens in either. We got enough people. We don't need any more.
Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
See, this is probably the biggest issue of the election, and that is the economy. The problem we have in the United States is it's real simple. United States government is the biggest employer. It has to spend a certain amount of money. It has to put this money out to continue the flow, the circulation of our economy. We've gotten to a point where they simply need more money than we can be taxed for. The bottom line here is that we don't have enough money coming in, and there's no way to raise that amount of money. I mean, we can raise the amount, but there's no way to fulfill that without continuing to run more money on the credit card. But every time we run more money on credit, I'm talking about the government, every time they print more money, then 9 to 10 months later, you're going to see a flood of inflation. And where we've gotten to now is that the wages and salaries cannot keep up with the rate of inflation. And this is why it's eroding the middle class. This is why so many people are having to use their credit cards to get by on. They're trying to, they have to go out and get 2 or 3 jobs. That's why you can't have housewives at home with their children where they ought to be. It takes not just 2 incomes, it takes 3 or 4 incomes now. And so it's just we're eroding the middle class, and Trump sees this. And so there's 2 ways to fight. It's kind of like Dave Ramsey likes to talk about. You either you either decrease what you're spending. He always recommends decreasing what you're spending, get it down to a raw amount, and increase what you're making. Well, that's easier said than done, really. I mean, it's fine to say, oh, well, you already got 3 jobs, go get 4. So Trump is attacking it in the same fashion. He's trying, with the Doge committee, he's going to try to reduce the amount we're spending, and that's going to be really tough, and that's going to have repercussions of its own economically. The bottom line is that whatever we do, we're going to have to suffer. Americans want to elect a leader that's going to magically fix things, and then we're going to just keep going on and on and on, and your lifestyle isn't going to change. But that's impossible. It can't happen. It's unrealistic. At some point, you're going to have to go on a diet. At some point, you're going to have to work out, and it's going to hurt. So suck it up. The way he's going to do this, he's going to attack it from one end and try to reduce the expenses of the federal government. But on the other end, he's going to try and increase the income. And the best way to increase the income is through entrepreneurship. And that's what the tariffs are about. You raise the tariffs, and it causes, they're protective tariffs. We had them in the 19th century. You raise the tariffs, and all the foreign goods coming in, which all this stuff that's made now is coming out of China. And if it gets, I think you ought to raise it high enough to where it's unaffordable to buy anything from China. Just melt them down. And then I know that would cause a lot of suffering and a lot of complaining, and people would say they're not going to be able to get their goods because Walmart will go bust, which is fine with me. And they're not going to be able to get their goods. But that opens up an opportunity for Americans to invest in the United States and bring manufacturing back to the United States. I've always said that the basis of national security, before you talk about, as the Marine Corps, we call in logistics, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Before you talk about anything, missiles, tanks, guns, rifles, ammunition, before you talk about any of that, the number one defense of the United States of national security is your manufacturing basis. Because if you don't have your manufacturing basis, you ain't going to have any beans, bullets, and Band-Aids.